Hey, my name is Christine, and I'm an elopement photographer that's been living and working in the Alps since 2019. In this video guide, we're going to be diving into everything you need to know if you're planning a wedding in Austria from abroad. Specifically, we're going to be diving into the logistics and the legalities of it. So if you want to know more about what that looks like, keep watching. If you're thinking of getting married or eloping in Austria, one of the first questions you probably already have is, can I even get married here? And the quick answer is yes, you definitely can. There's definitely a few caveats to that answer though, and so we're going to be diving into that during this video. Something that'll help you a lot as we go through this video is knowing that there are typically about 3 types of wedding and elopement ceremonies you can have. There's the civil marriage, there's religious weddings, and then there's symbolic ceremonies. And spoiler, symbolic ceremonies are the best and what we're going to spend the most time on, but I know you want to know about the other 2 as well. In terms of civil marriage in Austria, it is possible in Austria if you're coming from abroad. And it's actually a fairly smooth process, especially compared to a lot of other destinations in the Alps. Applying to civilly marry in Austria generally requires a stay of about 2 to 4 weeks in the country to organize the necessary documents and go to any required appointments. Civil weddings have to take place at a legally recognized civil registry office. There are civil registry offices located in the mountains, so there is still that possibility to get legally married with still having an amazing view of the Alps. And also great news, you can legally marry in Austria if you're an LGBTQ couple. If you are wanting a legal ceremony, some of the documents that you're gonna need to make sure to get, which are gonna all have to be officially translated into German, include your passports, birth certificates, a certificate of no impediment, certificate of single status, proof of residency, a marriage application, declaration regarding immigration, your first marriage certificate and final divorce papers if you were previously married, as well as a death certificate of your previous spouse if you're widowed. There's definitely a little bit to gather up there. In terms of religious weddings in Austria or church weddings, some key details to keep in mind if you're wanting to go this route is that while couples can have a religious ceremony led by a celebrant or a family member, getting married within the church is definitely a more complicated process. So official religious ceremonies can only take place after the legal ceremony, whether the legal ceremony is in Austria or in your home country. Churches may require documentation of your legal ceremony, and if you're Catholic, they'll also likely need proof of baptism or confirmation certificates. And unlike in the USA, most churches in Austria don't see themselves at all as like a wedding venue per se. This means that couples coming from abroad are a lot less likely to get approval to marry within the church as they aren't a part of that parish or church community. For these reasons, I definitely recommend if you're wanting to have a stress-free wedding experience to consider symbolic ceremony. Symbolic ceremonies are a great way to weave in any religious or cultural elements that matter to you, while also skipping the headache of having a traditional church wedding. So any couple that can legally travel to their chosen destination can have a symbolic ceremony. There's almost no restrictions on where you get married beyond considerations for private property and any sort of environmental closures. And symbolic ceremonies are stress-free and a private way to get married. Most couples who symbolically marry do the legal paperwork at home in their home country before or after their elopement. And I've had so many couples tell me that exchanging vows in private was what made the marriage feel real, and it was just as meaningful. So don't let a symbolic ceremony put you off as it's not the legal day. I've had so many people tell me the wedding day that they celebrated abroad, that was when it really all came together and felt real. So one of the biggest questions I get as an elopement photographer is, what does a symbolic ceremony even look like? So I want to dive into that, give you some ideas of just a general overview. I'm definitely considering making another video all about symbolic ceremonies themselves, just because I think people have so many questions and it's hard to envision without actually experiencing it. So I'm hoping I could do that in a way that would paint you a broader picture of that. But some key details of typically what a symbolic ceremony looks like is symbolic ceremonies can be either just you and your partner privately exchanging handwritten vows, or it can be a ceremony that's led by a family member, a friend, or a hired celebrant. A celebrant out here is basically like an officiant in the US. And except for out here, you don't need anyone to officiate your ceremony. People always wonder, do I need to hire a celebrant? How important is that? Here's some stats for you. About 10 to 15% of our couples hire a celebrant or officiant to lead their ceremony. About another 10 to 15% enlist a family member or friend to lead their ceremony. And then the vast majority, the remainder there, they actually typically exchange handwritten vows and exchange rings privately during their elopement, and they don't have anyone else involved. So you can definitely still have a meaningful, connected ceremony without having a lot of logistics or details to worry about there. And what does a symbolic ceremony even look like in the first place? Typically, in my experience, 2-person elopement ceremonies are somewhere between like 5 and 15 minutes long. They include exchanging personalized vows, rings. Sometimes we've had couples that have done a ritual together, like a hand fasting ceremony that they practice beforehand, which I always think is really cool. And then the rest of the elopement day is spent exploring and creating awesome new memories, whether through hiking, cool, unique helicopter tours, on the water, like any number of different ways that you can imagine. Just imagine the best day ever and you happen to get married on that day, and that's an elopement day. Celebrant-led ceremonies generally last a bit longer. They're more on the 25 to 40-minute side of things. Generally, that just depends on whether or not there are other guests involved in the ceremony. If you're having a micro wedding, something else really cool that we've seen and that I love is that a lot of our couples who have had a celebrant or family-led ceremony with their guests then opted to privately exchange vows later at a separate location. So there's truly no limits on how you want to celebrate. And if you want to exchange private vows, but you're kind of worried about having an audience there, even if it's a small audience of your family, you definitely can have the best of both worlds, which is another awesome thing about eloping. And just as a kind of fun side story, one of our favorite moments from this past year was a couple, they brought cowbells to ring after exchanging their rings, which was, I'm saying ring way too much, but it was the ultimate way to ring in a new chapter and start in the mountains. I absolutely loved it, and it was so fun. Just great personal touch there. So I hope this video helped give you some ideas about what your wedding abroad can look like regarding the ceremony and also the legalities around it. If you're looking for more one-on-one help, you can always get in touch via the link in the description of this video. Otherwise, we have plenty of free planning resources that you can find on our website, as well as we're trying to upload here to our YouTube. So we're so excited to help you out, and I'm hoping that you have an awesome time as you start dreaming up your own elopement in the Alps or the Dolomites.